Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my next vlog, still in Austin. Many hours later after the last vlog, but the same day. And so obviously not as energetic or exuberant or. Yeah, not as much as I was this morning, but and I wish that I could carry that Misty around with me all the time because she's a lot more fun. She's she she's humorous and she finds the pun in everything. She's oh she's fun. And but as the day wore, you're tired. And I had a great night's sleep last night. So therefore had when you have sleep, I tell you, sleep is everything. It really is. If you can sleep well and get rested, it's half the battle, I think. I think that's half the battle. I suffer from suffer. What a terrible word. I mean, I don't know any other ways to say it, but no, I just don't sleep well. I've had problems with insomnia all of my life, almost all my life. And I've tried so many different things, but currently a lot of it, what keeps me up is pain or itching. Itching has been the biggest thing. It's just a itch, and I'm trying just to get comfortable. And my neurologist made a comment to me once that, pain is one thing, Misty, but boy, that itching is a completely different animal. Trying to manage itch is very, very difficult. Well, that's the truth. But luckily, I haven't had near as much itching here. I think a lot of it because of the humidity. I'm not having to lather as much product on. And unfortunately, my lips are still chapped and dry and icky, and my face is dry, but I still have dry mouth. It's still around. It's not going anywhere. Stopped with the coffee. That wasn't helping, and it didn't even taste good anymore. I had a few drinks of coffee and threw the rest down the drain. Bad me. If I was home, I would have set it aside and watered some plants with it. But yeah. I wanted to get outside a lot more today, but it was so windy. So much wind. And I have trigeminal neuralgia. I think that's the first time I've said it on this channel. But yes, I have trigeminal neuralgia. It's on my right side, and wind is my nemesis. It's a thing. One of the elements that scare the crap out of me trying to walk around and be out in the world. And I'll tackle that conversation at another date, but you can put that in our back hip pocket. I tried crocheting, and I don't know if any of you are, crocheters out there or knitters or, knitting and crochet are such therapeutic hobbies for so many people. We get into knitting and crocheting for a variety of reasons, but it's constantly being verified and validated for me that it's extremely therapeutic for a variety, a lot of reasons that it's that way. But when you're kind of in the middle of a crisis, a personal crisis, or you're dealing with a lot of emotion, and sometimes I can't crochet. It doesn't happen very often, but ever since I've been here, I haven't really wanted to crochet. I crocheted on the plane just fine. But every time I sit down and try to do it, and I just kind of throw it aside. So I have sketched a little bit, but I finished the Lincoln Lawyer, and I have to tell you that I really enjoyed that series. I really enjoyed it. It's hard to find a program that isn't over the top violent or even, violent, that isn't, rapey or petty fight. I just can't stand dealing with anything that's got too much of any of that stuff. But I like a good mystery. I don't mind the cops, robbers, and lawyers and doctors and all that. It's just, but I also don't want it to get too soap opera, so too much of a soap opera. I love Chicago Med. I started out. I mean, I started out with Chicago Fire, and I finished that, and I still like that. But it too, started getting a little soap opera-y. But Chicago Med certainly did. And I'm like, well, how many love partners or love interests, for everybody? And is everybody sleeping with everybody? Yeah, because the pool's not very big. I'm still trying to finish up Chicago Med just because I still like a lot of the characters, although my favorite one left the first season. Um, so, excuse me, Lincoln Lawyer was pretty good. So I'm glad that they are renewing, or they're dropping another season. So I definitely will watch that one. I'm kind of like, well, what do I watch now? I don't feel like crocheting. I didn't even try, but I don't want anything, you know, in the horror realm. I don't want anything to, definitely not nothing romantic, and the comedies sometimes are just so campy. Ugh, I don't want anything documentary. Although I will say, if I find a good documentary, I love documentaries. I love them. I think they're so. It's kind of like, I love nonfiction, so go figure. But I've watched a couple really good documentaries actually lately. One was let's see, I Am Big Bird. The guy who plays Carol. Is it Speeney? Yeah, Carol Speeney, who play. I had to think there for a minute. Retrieve that information. Sometimes it goes in, and you just wonder if it ever. Sometimes I feel like it just leaks out of my ears, especially names. Carol Speeney, who plays Big Bird. It was all about, him playing Big Bird, playing the character, how he got the job, how he got into, the field a little bit, and what his life has been like. And it's just a sweet story, a fascinating story. Really fascinating story. And I love the Muppets. I love Sesame Street. I grew up with Sesame Street. I grew up with Big Bird. I loved Big Bird. See, that was just it for me. Big Bird, Big Bird. And, but I think if I remember right, Ernie and Bert were my favorite. Because I just remember just Ernie being hilarious to me. Um, and of course, I like Cookie Monster. I liked them all. I don't think, Big Bird was like my top favorite, but I mean, if we want to talk about Muppets overall, who my favorite was Kermit the Frog. Oh my gosh, I loved Kermit. And I loved, was it the 80s Muppets show? They tried to redo Muppets in an evening show not too long ago, and I just think it failed miserably. It wasn't funny. Oh, it wasn't funny at all. I didn't enjoy it. But I sure did like the Muppets. So I don't know. I do need to keep myself distracted this evening. It's not very late. The sun's going down, or it's just kind of been overcast a little bit this late afternoon, and so it's starting to get evening, and I need to stay busy. I was so looking forward to a car too. Okay, so about the car thing. Oh, I didn't arrange a car because I had a friend who lives here. Um, well, and had is probably, I guess past tense is probably a good word. Um, I And so I just relied on him, and I should have thought that better, but it wouldn't have made any difference because, you know, I I did not really think about, needing a car. But I've always had major credit cards, but boy, the pandemic just changed that a lot. So yeah, I needed, even though I prepaid for everything for my car. So when, an argument happened and, disagreement or whatever you want to call whatever happened between me and my friend, I, uh, I thought, "Oh, okay, I need to be more self-sufficient." So, and I really wanted to drive around, and there's some places I wanted to visit, and some yarn stores. I figured just some good retail therapy would help too, because come on, let's face it, when crisis happens and you're depressed and sad and in pain, and then you're in physical pain, sometimes just a really good retail therapy and not all of us can afford it, and I really shouldn't. That's for especially right after Christmas because I can't necessarily afford it. But I thought, well, I'll do it. But anyway, I prepaid for everything, and I made sure, like, is it okay? If Are we okay? Are we okay that I pick up this car without a major credit card? And sure, 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 they accept such and such, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. Get there this morning and got through the entire thing. About to sign on the dotted line when, like, oh, your card's declined. What do you mean my card's declined? Well, it's not. I'm like, well, how much you putting on there? Because I have a debit. Well, I have a debit credit kind of set up, but anyway, I digress. So didn't get the car. So when you don't have a car, and you're not right in the middle of downtown, or if it's not like a walking community, to where, and I have some physical limitations here, so. And sure, I could Uber everywhere, and I got out a little bit, but anyway, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't that much of a deal breaker because I only have a couple days left here. Tomorrow's Monday, Tuesday, go home Wednesday, and I guess I'm going back into some more snow, into more storms. Oh. I love snow. I'm okay with the snow, especially if it melts pretty quickly, but I really don't want to deal with the cold. This body can't deal with cold, but I miss my dogs. It's been miserable. It is absolutely been miserable. The only break I have had from that is my friend. I got to meet my friend's dog, and oh my gosh, that dog is adorable. Absolutely adorable. And he was really worried that, I guess, he can be kind of snippy and is an oddball, different, kind of can just be not like people. But man, we we took to each other really, really well. And he was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed playing with him and snuggling with him. And the first night, he and I were snuggling on the couch. And then we ended up kind of sleeping together for a while, and he was sweet. He was just sweet, and I got to see him for a little bit today, and I'm like, oh, just leave him here. You go away, but leave him here. In fact, the only reason I reached out to him, to my friend, was like, could you just bring the dog by? I wouldn't have probably reached out to him, but I'm like, just bring the dog by because I need a cuddle. If he would have been if he would have been a good friend, he would have. I mean, he could have stayed. Probably would have been good for us to talk a little bit through some of the issues that came up this week, but I knew he wouldn't. Because he just doesn't. He's not that way. Besides, it's all about him anyway. It's all about him. Have you ever had one of those friends, or you think you just are always kind of reevaluating your friendship because you're just wondering how much of this relationship are you invested, and how much are they invested, and how much do you put into the friendship, and how much are they putting? I've played that back and forth in my head so many different times throughout this relationship with him. And let me just say, I should have known better because, you know, I I should have cut it loose a long time ago. But when you are, when you are when you're chronically in pain and you're disabled and you're not working anymore and you're homebound a lot, and you've lost a lot of your friends because they can't handle it, and even your family walks out because they can't handle it either. Um, you hold on to the ones that are kind of around, and maybe you put up with a lot more, and I did. I did put up with a lot, because, you know, when he came crawling back at one point, and he always does, and he probably will in the future, you know, I've always been good about putting boundaries up and having that conversation in even in with my friends, with him. But and I even did this last time that he kind of came back. It's like, I know I messed up and I really need a friend and blah blah blah. And he was going through a really hard time, and he had a couple, especially this last year and a half. But I needed support too. I needed someone to ask how my day was. And it's funny because when I started talking a lot more about myself recently in the last few months, it's interesting how, well, I don't want to be a dick, but, and I'm like, if you even have to say that, then you're a dick, right? Uh, anyway, um, yeah, he was never really a friend. Um, but I sure was. Anyway, that's kind of the pain that happened this week. Kind of a strange, strange mix of a lot of different things. And so where the pain comes from and the anger isn't so much about him as it is about you allowing yourself to put power where power shouldn't have been laid. He didn't deserve that, you know. And to have kind of allowed yourself to stay in an unhealthy relationship with someone when you know better, for always making some sort of an excuse for their behavior. And I'm talking just in generalities with relationships, whether you're friends, lovers, spouses, brothers, sisters, it doesn't matter. It's like, relationships are hard and they take a lot of work, especially if you're not in the same, same state or same city, or it just takes work. But I can say that as I've been alive, as I have been alive in my long, no, but experience has really taught me that we live in a culture that's, out of sight, out of mind, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. You would think that with the internet and the availability of that internet, and all different forms of communication, that we would be more connected with each other. In fact, I wrote a poem when I was in grad school about how disconnected we are in a connected world. Um, and I think that a lot of times it's really cultural. It depends on how it's being utilized, and because it's a weapon. It can be used for good or evil, just like anything else. Words have meaning. Words can either spout out anger, evil, and horror, or it can be compassionate and embracive, and and loving. And I I think it's sad that when you really have good relationships in your life, well, or let's say, people that have been part of your life, it is, for a certain amount of time, and they move, um, you just slowly, it seems like everybody that has moved away, you slowly lose contact with one another in some way or another. And I've always taken pride in being the one to keep responding and to keep to do everything I could to keep that person close, but I just got so tired and hurt and then resentful of being forgotten, and I felt feeling like all of the work was on my side of that fence, that communication fence. Because, but I guess it also, too, depends on the relationship, what that person meant to you, or I don't know. I just think that's a very difficult one. My only observation is that it's very difficult to have and keep up really good, deep, meaningful relationships with people that don't live close to you. Unless there is 100% invested in it as you are to keeping that going. And because in the day we were pen pals, we had pen pals, and I there were a lot of family members that I wrote and stayed and was on the phone with, and had better relationships because of that technology than how easy it is to get on and FaceTime, right? Or video chat, or have these Zoom meetings and all these other different things. And so, like I said, it's my experience here in the United States. I don't know how much it is different. I think the pandemic taught us a few things, about the ability to work from home and be effective, how we could keep relationships going, but at the same time, it seems like some of those things that we've learned, not staying in that well very easily. We got some holes in there, and we revert back to old habits and a really band-aid culture, a fast-paced, quick culture. Boy, this vlog is a lot more serious than the other ones, weren't they? And I was going to talk all about me, but I ended up talking more about, well, this is about me, but I get a little philosophical, all this crap and noise. Okay, Misty, let's dial it back. I'm sorry, folks. But anyway, I started talking out about trying to create distractions for myself this evening. I guess you're my distraction. Just ramble on about philosophy and all these different deep, meaningful topics and what's wrong with society. And it'll keep me from thinking about the broken relationship and all that happened a couple days ago. And in fact, I spent so much time crying and then angry and whatever. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, anyway. I at least am taking care of myself, right? Working through it. Kind of. And that's one of the things I have to say that I love about myself, and that I've worked really hard on, is that when things do happen, unlike the way I used to react when I was younger, and more impetuous and explosive, is that I deal with it really quickly. I allow myself to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. I allow the pain to enter my entire body. And it can be extremely overwhelming, extremely sad, and I can go to some dark places. But and it can get, and it's scary. It can be definitely scary. But I find it really fascinating too that how short-lived it was when looking back. Um, it may have been pretty powerful, and I may have scared a couple people, a couple good friends, but I have those friends that will listen. And for that, I am extremely, extremely grateful. And you gals know who you are. They are amazing, regardless where they are in the world. Will pick up the phone and listen and remind me that I am an amazing individual and remind me of all of my amazing attributes and why I'm their friend. And those are the things, and those are the things that you need to hear when you're going through a crisis. But when I woke up this morning, I didn't feel like crying. I haven't even teared up today. It's just kind of calm. I'm not angry anymore. The anger's gone and dealt with. And so within, and I'm not saying that I'll have any little setbacks about it, especially when I'm vulnerable. But, you know, like I said, this needed to happen. And I think it just kind of reaffirms a commitment to myself that, all right, okay, Misty, you allowed this unhealthy relationship to continue for as long as you did and came out to see him. He wasn't open to it for a variety of reasons. And then you knew the minute you knew that it wasn't healthy. There was a guard I had up regarding a lot of things anyway. Because yeah, he's not a healthy individual. Something I've been working on with him. Anyway, so I guess what are my plans? I think I'm going to heat up some more lasagna and make some garlic bread. I have a lot left, but it's so good heated up, and I did such a great job. So instead of cooking some new food, I think I might do that and have a little bit of bread left, even though I know I'm not supposed to be eating any wheat, and I'm trying to stay away from carbs. I threw all the Coke out, and because that was his, and well, I didn't throw it out. I don't drink it. I tried one, and I'm like, oh, let's see. And being diabetic, just can't deal with that sugar. I'm not going to go down that road. So yeah, I'm not drinking that, and the ginger beer's there, and all that stuff. It's just too much sugar. So that's gone. The cheesecake's gone, I have to say. Crust isn't. It's outside, but I did eat some of the cheesecake. Little bits of the cheesecake. Luckily, that was the only sweet thing that was in here. Otherwise, everything else is salad and steaks. I guess I should try to cook up a steak tomorrow. Anyhow, long vlog, I guess. We got 2 short ones and now this big long one. Yeah, that's what happens when you ramble. It's another part of the process of being us, right? So I'm going to love myself a little bit more. And I hope you guys are loving yourselves too. Because remember, it's all about me. It's all about you. And maybe us doing it together. Have a good night, guys.